A stray dog stopped traffic today, not because he was lost, but because he recognized the man inside one of the cars. What happened when the driver stepped out is something no one will ever forget. On the edge of a quiet little town, near an old parking lot, a lone dog could always be found. His fur was rough, his ribs faintly visible, but his eyes, they told a story no one could ignore. Every morning, as the first cars rolled by, he'd stand tall, watching, waiting. Locals had grown used to him. Some called him Buddy. Others left scraps of food or whispered kind words as they passed. But no matter how many people showed him kindness, Buddy never followed anyone home. He always stayed in that same spot, staring down the road, as if waiting for someone he still believed would return. No one knew who or what he was waiting for. 2 years earlier, Buddy wasn't a stray. He was a happy, playful puppy who belonged to a young man named Ethan. Ethan was a delivery driver, always on the road, but no matter how long his shifts were, Buddy was always waiting at the door, tail wagging like a metronome of love. They were inseparable. Mornings began with muddy walks through the park, afternoons filled with games of fetch, and nights ended with Buddy curled at Ethan's feet, content and safe. To Buddy, Ethan wasn't just an owner, he was his whole world. But life doesn't always stay kind. When Ethan lost his job, everything changed. He had to move to another city temporarily for work, leaving Buddy with a close friend until he could return. The plan was simple, just a few weeks apart, but Buddy didn't understand goodbyes. On the second night, he escaped, following the scent of Ethan's car through the dark streets, determined to find him. That was the last time anyone saw Buddy as someone's pet. From that night on, he was a wanderer, searching endlessly for the man he still believed would come back. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months. Buddy roamed the streets alone, his once shiny coat now dull and matted. He learned where to find water, where to hide from the rain, and which alleys were safe when the nights grew cold. But no matter how far he wandered, he always found his way back, to that same corner by the parking lot, the place where Ethan's old car used to park. People in town began to notice. The shopkeeper across the street would leave a bowl of water. A kind old woman sometimes brought scraps of meat. Kids passing by would wave, calling out, "Hey, Buddy." But he never followed them. He'd just wag his tail politely and return to his watch. Every time a car that looked even slightly like Ethan's passed by, Buddy's ears would perk up. He'd stand, tail twitching, heart pounding, only for the car to drive away. Still, he never gave up. Through storms, through hunger, through loneliness, he waited, because somewhere deep inside, Buddy believed that one day, his human would come back. And when he did, Buddy wanted to be right there, waiting, just like always. It was a rainy afternoon, the kind where the sky seems too heavy to hold its own weight. The streets glistened with puddles, and most people hurried home, umbrellas tilted against the wind. But Buddy stayed where he always did, soaked to the bone, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. Then, through the blur of rain and headlights, a familiar sound echoed, the slow hum of an old engine. A dented blue car rolled to a stop at the intersection. Inside sat a man, older, wearier, but unmistakably Ethan. He had just returned to town after 2 long years, guilt heavy in his chest. He never thought Buddy could have survived. But as he looked out through the raindrops streaking his window, something caught his eye, a muddy, trembling figure staring right back at him. Ethan froze. No, it can't be. For a moment, time seemed to stop. The rain fell harder, blurring everything between them, everything except recognition. Buddy's ears perked up, his head tilted. Then, with a sudden burst of energy that no one thought he still had, he bolted into the street. "Buddy?" Ethan whispered, stepping out of the car, his voice trembling. He could hardly believe what he was seeing. The same familiar brown fur, the same eyes filled with love and longing. Buddy ran faster, paws splashing through puddles, his tail wagging so wildly it looked like his whole body was smiling. The moment Ethan knelt down, the dog leapt into his arms, whining, licking his face, circling him like a storm of joy. Ethan held him tight, rain mixing with tears on his cheeks. "I'm sorry, boy. I'm so sorry," he whispered, his voice breaking. "I never stopped thinking about you." People nearby stopped and stared. Some filmed, others just watched, moved by the sight of a soaked man hugging the dog who had waited 2 long years. Buddy pressed his head against Ethan's chest, as if to say, I knew you'd come back. In that moment, nothing else mattered, not the rain, not the years lost, not the world around them. Just a man and his dog, together again, proving that love never forgets. Ethan refused to let Buddy out of his sight again. The very next morning, he took him straight to a nearby vet. The doctor, a kind woman with gentle eyes, examined Buddy carefully. He's weak, she said softly, running her hand over his thin frame, but he's a fighter. This dog's heart kept him alive. Ethan smiled through tears. Yeah, he whispered, he's got the biggest heart I know. After a warm bath, fresh food, and a good night's rest, Buddy began to look like himself again. His tail wagged a little stronger, his eyes shone a little brighter. Ethan bought him a new red collar, simple but special. On the tag, he engraved 2 words that said everything. Forever home. Days turned into weeks. And soon Buddy was back to chasing tennis balls and riding in Ethan's car with his head out the window, ears flapping in the wind. Wherever Ethan went, Buddy followed. And sometimes, when they drove past that old parking lot, Buddy would look out the window for just a moment, then rest his head on Ethan's arm. Finally at peace. Some say dogs live shorter lives because they already know how to love unconditionally. Buddy was proof of that. For 2 years, he endured hunger, loneliness, and cold. Yet he never lost faith. He didn't understand time, distance, or circumstance. Only love. His story reminds us that loyalty isn't about how long you wait, but how deeply you care. In a world where people move on so quickly, Buddy stood still, waiting for the one heart that truly mattered. Not every stray has an ending like his, but each one carries the same hope, to be seen, to be loved, to find their forever home, because sometimes, the smallest hearts teach us the greatest lessons about love, patience, and forgiveness. If Buddy's story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true stories of love, loyalty, and second chances. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss another tale that reminds us. Sometimes, the purest love comes from those who ask for nothing in return.